So Donald Trump did what Donald Trump does. He weaponized the most consequential trade agreement in North American history, turned a scheduled legal review into a live televised hostage situation, slapped a 25% tariff wall across $155 billion worth of Canadian goods, threatened to tear up a deal that his own administration had signed and publicly celebrated as one of the greatest trade victories in American history, and then declared on camera outside the White House that Canada might simply not be worth negotiating with at all. Not a misunderstanding, not a procedural miscommunication, not a backroom clears throat pressure tactic, a calculated thundering act of structural economic coercion broadcast to every boardroom, every central bank, every commodity exchange, and every manufacturing floor on the planet. By the spring of 2026, with the July 1st CUSMA review deadline bearing down like a freight train on a locked track, the United States Trade Representative had already completed 2 full bilateral rounds of negotiations. With Mexico, had 2 more rounds explicitly scheduled for June and July, and had made publicly and unambiguously clear that Canada was, in the Trade Representative's own words, behind Mexico on trade discussions. The architecture of North American commerce, $700 billion in annual cross-border trade, the integrated supply chains of the automotive corridor, the steel infrastructure of Ontario and Quebec, the energy pipelines feeding American refineries with 64% of their crude oil supply. Every single load-bearing pillar of that system was being held at the edge of a cliff, and the man holding it there was grinning. He had done this before. It had worked before. And every historical precedent suggested it would work again. But before I give you Mark Carney's response, you need to understand what the situation actually reveals about the true physics of economic coercion, and why Trump's most aggressive, most overwhelming, most structurally confident move was also his most catastrophic miscalculation since the first tariff letter left the White House. Hit subscribe because the fallout from this is compounding by the hour and the clock is ticking. Here is the physics of this battlefield, stripped entirely of the noise, the theater, and the performance. CUSMA, the Canada-United States-Mexico agreement, is not a concession that clears throat America graciously extends to its neighbors. It is not a favor. It is not charity. It is a legal and economic infrastructure that underpins the single most integrated bilateral trading relationship on Earth. A relationship so deeply woven into both economies that disentangling it would require dismantling automobile factories, rerouting continental energy infrastructure, restructuring agricultural supply chains, and absorbing consumer price shocks that no elected government on either side of the border could politically survive. 20% of Canada's entire gross domestic product crosses the American border annually. Canada supplies 64% of all United States crude oil imports by volume. Canadian steel and aluminum feed American construction projects, American defense contractors, and American industrial manufacturers. Canadian auto parts are embedded inside vehicles assembled in Michigan, Ohio, and Tennessee. The structural dependency runs in both directions, and it runs deep. But the American political class, operating on the assumption that asymmetry clears throat of scale equals asymmetry of power, had spent 18 months pretending the dependency only ran one way. Now, here is what the July 1st deadline actually means, because the White House had been deliberately and strategically obscuring this detail from the public narrative. Under the precise text of CUSMA itself, July 1st, 2026 is not a termination date. It is not an expiration. It is not a cliff. It is a decision point, a legal junction at which the 3 signatory parties must signal one of 3 outcomes: renew the deal for 16 years, withdraw from it entirely, which requires 6 months of formal advance notice and still leaves the deal in force during that period, or signal both non-renewal and non-withdrawal, which triggers an annual review mechanism that keeps the entire agreement in force, legally binding, fully enforceable, and protecting all existing trade exemptions continuously all the way to 2036. The so-called deadline was a gateway to a prolonged negotiation, not a detonator. The Eurasia Group had already identified this dynamic in its top risk analysis for 2026, describing CUSMA as likely to stagger on as a, quote, zombie agreement, neither fully dead nor alive. Trump's team built a countdown clock to a deadline that structurally and legally does not end the way they were advertising it. The coercion was a performance. The leverage was manufactured. And Canada's negotiators understood the contract better than the people threatening to tear it up. The tariff campaign itself was designed to be decisive when it began on February 1st. Levy on most Canadian imports and a 10% rate on Canadian energy products. The stated rationale was border security and fentanyl flows. The actual mechanics were economic compression. The expectation in Washington was that Canada would break within weeks. Canada retaliated with $30 billion in counter tariffs immediately, then escalated to $155 billion in retaliatory measures within 3 weeks, targeting American agricultural exporters, American consumer goods manufacturers, and American industrial producers with a precision that was anything but accidental. Additional tariffs followed on automobiles, steel, and aluminum. The Bank of Canada moved into a defensive posture. Canadian GDP contracted under the weight of the levies. Economists estimated the tariff cycle had already carved 1.5 to 2% out of Canadian gross domestic product. Canadian households were absorbing between $1,700 and $2,000 in additional annual costs. Ontario and Quebec, the industrial core of the Canadian economy, were taking the hardest hits with effective tariff rates on American-bound exports from those provinces exceeding 6%. The damage was real, documented, and measurable. By every conventional metric of a coercion campaign, the pressure was working. Except it was not working at all, because while the headlines were diligently tracking the damage to Canada, a quiet and irreversible reorientation was accelerating beneath the surface of every trade data report and every corporate quarterly filing. In the 12 months ending January 2026, Canadian merchandise exports to non-American economies surged 17% year over year. Simultaneously, Canadian exports to the United States fell 10%. Canadian firms operating across 27 separate trading partners at once had already recovered nearly $11 billion of the $18.5 billion in annual export revenue lost to the American trade war. Canadian businesses were rotating their export markets faster than most analysts had believed structurally possible. The federal government announced a budget with the explicit objective of doubling non-American exports by 2035, backed by new infrastructure investment and accelerated approvals for major industrial projects. In January 2026, Carney flew to Beijing and secured a preliminary bilateral agreement with China reducing Canadian tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles in exchange for Beijing dropping tariffs on Canadian canola oil entirely and suspending levies on other Canadian agricultural exports. The supply chain was not simply absorbing pain, it was rerouting deliberately, permanently. Every new long-term contract signed with a European buyer was a ratchet clicking. Every grain deal with an Asian importer was a ratchet clicking. Every energy agreement with a non-American refinery was a ratchet clicking. The ratchet does not click back. And then came the move that Washington's entire strategic framework had failed to anticipate when the Trump administration sent signals through back channels and through media reporting in the spring of 2026 that it expected Canada to pay what sources described as an entry fee, a package of preemptive concessions just to be granted the privilege of sitting down at the negotiating table as an equal party. Mark Carney did something that violated every assumption the White House pressure model had been built upon. He refused. Not a counter-proposal, not a softened alternative that preserved the appearance of engagement while diluting the substance of the demand. A direct institutional, publicly stated refusal. When asked whether Canada should make additional concessions to access trade talks, Carney's answer landed in a single syllable: with a calm of someone who had already read every clause of the agreement being weaponized against him? No. He then told reporters with precise and unembellished language that the United States alone would not dictate the terms of whatever agreement was reached, that this process was a negotiation and that it would require movement from the American side as well. Canada had not stormed out. Canada had declined without drama and without apology to enter a room that had been architecturally designed for its subordination. The counterstrike was already deployed before the press conference ended, while the United States and Mexico were running bilateral negotiating rounds and constructing what analysts described as a framework that would, by design, leave Canada isolated and pressured to accept terms set without its participation. Canada's Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc sent a formal written letter to United States Trade Representative Jameson Greer and Mexico's Economy Secretary. The letter recommended renewing CUSMA for the full 16-year period. No annual review mechanism triggered, no renegotiation framework opened, no entry fee tendered, no preemptive concessions offered. The letter was precise, institutional, and devastating in what it implied. Canada was not refusing to negotiate. Canada was proposing to simply continue living under the deal that already existed, the deal that already governed $700 billion in annual trade, the deal that already exempted the majority of Canadian goods from punitive tariffs, the deal that remained in legal force until 2036, regardless of what happened on July 1st. Canada had effectively communicated to Washington something the pressure campaign had been specifically designed to prevent anyone in Ottawa from being able to say with structural credibility, we are comfortable with the agreement that already exists. Now we need Warren Buffett. Because what just happened in the North American trade corridor is something the Oracle of Omaha has been explaining in different language for 4 decades. And the mechanics of this confrontation map onto his framework with an almost uncomfortable precision. Buffett would look at this situation and introduce what he calls the hostage paradox. The hostage paradox states that the moment the party wielding coercive leverage makes the consequences of refusal explicit and public, they have disclosed the ceiling of their power. They have handed the counterpart a map. When Trump announced publicly that Canada could be a situation where there is just a tariff and not really a negotiation, he did not project strength. He announced a maximum outcome. Clears throat. He disclosed that the worst thing that could happen to Canada under his strategy was a permanent tariff, which Canada had already spent 14 months structurally adapting to absorb, partially offset through trade diversion, and legally challenging through its own judicial system. The threat, once made explicit and public, became a ceiling rather than an escalating weapon. Buffett would deliver this in his unhurried way. The most dangerous thing you can do in a negotiation is tell the other party what your best move looks like, because now they only have to survive that one thing. Buffett would then introduce what he calls the structural void principle. When a dominant market actor weaponizes its position as a buyer, it does not simply inflict pain on the seller. It engineers a strategic void, a reliable and widening absence of stable commerce that competing buyers, alternative frameworks, and new trading architectures rush to fill at a velocity that the original aggressor consistently underestimates. The 17% surge in Canadian exports to non-American markets is not a diplomatic gesture, not a temporary workaround, and not a negotiating signal. It is a structural void filling in real time, and it fills permanently. Every new trade relationship Canada builds while Washington is occupied with his performance of leverage is a relationship that requires no American permission to maintain. A relationship that generates revenue independent of American policy cycles. A relationship that compounds and deepens with every quarter that the American market remains unreliable. Each one of those 27 trading partnerships that Canadian firms activated during the trade war represents a distribution channel, a customer relationship, a logistics infrastructure, and a currency exposure that did not exist before Trump made Canadian access to the American market feel uncertain. The void is filling. The velocity is increasing, and once filled, it does not empty itself on request. Buffett would close with what he calls the reliability premium. He would explain in the way he explains everything that the most valuable thing any trading partner can offer is not price and not volume. It is predictability. The country that can be counted on to honor the terms of its agreements, to not detonate the framework when domestic politics demand a distraction, to not sever negotiations because a provincial government ran a television advertisement. That country commands a reliability premium in every contract negotiation it enters. Canada just spent 14 months demonstrating under maximum duress that it holds its positions under pressure. That is a reputation that compounds. And like all compounding assets, its value is not visible in any single quarter. It is visible across the decades. Now look at what the numbers are doing to the American side of this ledger, because the fallout was not theoretical. It was measurable, bilateral, accelerating in both directions simultaneously, and landing on constituencies that the architects of the coercion campaign had assured the White House would remain insulated. American agricultural exporters operating in the Canadian market were facing Canadian counter tariffs on $15.6 billion worth of American steel and aluminum imports. American farmers across the Midwest and the Plain States, who had exported commodities into Canada under zero tariff conditions for 30 years, were absorbing retaliatory levies that compressed their margins in the middle of a period of already strained agricultural profitability. The American automotive industry, which is structurally and irreversibly integrated with Canadian parts manufacturing across the Ontario-Michigan industrial corridor, absorbed tariff exposure that General Motors and other major manufacturers cited explicitly as a key risk variable in their 2026 financial forecast. Language that translated directly into suppressed capital expenditure, delayed hiring decisions, and reduced earnings projections across the sector. The S&P 500 took repeated volatility shocks as trade war escalation cycles compressed corporate earnings guidance across manufacturing, materials, energy, and industrial sectors, with a cascade effect that analysts described as structurally uncontainable from within the equity markets. American construction companies faced sustained cost inflation as Canadian lumber and materials tariffs pushed input prices into ranges that were actively delaying residential development across more than a dozen states, compressing housing supply in an environment already suffering from a structural deficit of new units that was registering as a political crisis in its own right. American energy refineries, 64% dependent on Canadian crude oil for their feedstock supply, were pricing in supply uncertainty for the first time in 3 decades. A risk premium that did not stay contained within the energy sector but flowed directly into American consumer fuel costs at every pump in every state that ran on continental supply infrastructure. The broader American consumer was not insulated either. The tariff cycle pushed estimated household costs higher across imported goods categories ranging from lumber to steel to automotive components, with the inflationary pressure arriving precisely at a moment when the Federal Reserve had been trying to bring consumer price growth under control. The coercion that was supposed to discipline Canada was instead metastasizing through the American domestic economy in ways that the models had not fully captured, and that the political communication infrastructure was struggling to explain. And then the American legal system itself dismantled the scaffold in early 2026. The Supreme Court of the United States struck down several of Trump's sweeping emergency tariffs imposed under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, ruling that the executive branch had exceeded its statutory authority in the scope and application of the measures. The legal architecture of coercion was found unconstitutional from within the American judicial framework. The framework did not just fail geopolitically, it detonated structurally from the inside by its own country's highest court. The ratchet clicked in the opposite direction, and it did not click back. What happened in the North American trade corridor between February 2025 and June 2026 is a precise and clinical demonstration of what structural power actually looks like when it refuses to be baited into performing weakness. Trump arrived loud, arrived with numbers calculated to overwhelm rational resistance, arrived with a countdown clock and a public ultimatum, and a career-long reputation for making institutional counterparts flinch. He detonated the established framework of North American trade relations with a confidence built entirely on the assumption that the scale asymmetry of the relationship would compress Canadian decision-making into eventual capitulation. He was not wrong about the asymmetry. He was catastrophically wrong about what Canada had been quietly engineering with the time that asymmetry had created, because while Trump was holding press conferences about leverage, Canada was restructuring its export architecture across 27 markets simultaneously. While Trump was severing talks over an Ontario television advertisement featuring a former American president speaking about the value of trade, Canada was boarding a plane to Beijing, while American negotiators were running bilateral rounds with Mexico and publicly announcing that Canada was behind on discussions. Canada's chief negotiator was on the record stating their objective as the lowest possible tariffs on the narrowest basket of goods with the most market access for Canadian products. A sentence so precisely calibrated, it functions less like a diplomatic position and more like a weapons specification. CUSMA does not expire on July 1st, 2026. The trade relationship does not terminate. The legal protections do not dissolve. The Canadian dollar trading in the 72 to 74 cent range against the American dollar has priced the uncertainty and held. The $11 billion in recovered export revenue across 27 non-American trading partners is permanent market penetration that no subsequent American administration can reverse with a single policy announcement. The supply chains that rerouted are not returning. The infrastructure investments in non-American trade corridors are multi-decade capital commitments that have already been made, already been funded, and are already producing returns. Canada sent a letter recommending a 16-year renewal. The deal that already exists on terms that already protect Canadian economic interests with no entry fee tendered, no preemptive concessions offered, no subordination accepted. The Americans alone will not dictate the terms. There is a lesson inside this that extends far beyond the specific clauses of a trade agreement and far beyond the particular personalities of the men who are fighting over it. It is the same lesson that surfaces in every asymmetric confrontation between a party that performs power and a party that engineers it. The party that performs power announces its moves, it builds spectacle, it creates countdowns, it tells the other side what happens if they refuse. The party that engineers power does the opposite. It quietly and methodically and without announcement reduces the cost of refusal until the aggressor's threat is no longer a weapon that can determine outcomes, but a weather condition, something to be modeled, adapted to, absorbed, and ultimately outlasted. Trump came for a trade war. Carney came with a structural reorientation of the Canadian export economy, a formal letter proposing continuation of the existing deal, a 17% surge in non-American export revenues, a new bilateral framework with the world's second largest economy, a Supreme Court ruling dismantling the legal scaffolding of the tariff regime, and 7 words delivered without theater, without anger, and without a single raised voice. The Americans alone will not dictate the terms. Power is not maintained by volume, clears throat. It is maintained by architecture. And Canada just showed the world what its architecture looks like when it is tested under maximum pressure.
Trump was financed by the Harrimans and the British Rothschilds, and he died in a helicopter crash in 1989. They then replaced him with another avatar who was the Make America Great Again guy, and he lasted until June of 2025. At this point, a different group of families who owned the Federal Reserve Board, the Rockefellers, took over the Trump avatar and immediately used it to destroy the Trump image that had been created over the decades. It was deliberate acting to make him look like a megalomaniac, insane person. And who are the people behind this? This is the Rockefellers, okay? And people need to understand this. Bill Clinton was the son of Winthrop Rockefeller. Hillary Clinton was the daughter of David Rockefeller. Other Rockefellers include, for example, John Podesta. He's Lawrence Rockefeller in that branch of the family. Those are the people pushing the space opera, the alien disclosure, all that kind of stuff. And then we have other Rockefellers. For example, take a look at these pictures of Michael Rockefeller, Guinea, who looks identical to Tom Hanks. They are one and the same people, according to my various sources, which include descendants of J.P. Morgan and other of the founders of the Federal Reserve Board, as well as European royals. And then of course there's Mark Zuckerberg. He's another Rockefeller. And they're also Obama, descended from Hitler. So we're talking about bloodlines. So then hire actors to play their roles and make it seem like, we have a democracy, when in fact it's all fake. And, we've tried to reach out to these people. We offer them 200 tons of gold to help finance, we'd start by setting up a think tank with that money to figure out how to set up a better system of economic management for the West so we don't get overrun by China. And the idea was to hire some really smart people to figure out how to set up a future planning agency. And then, once the agency was set up, then trillions of dollars would be made available to, end poverty, stop environmental destruction, turn this world into a paradise, all that kind of stuff. But they're blocking us. And since they will not accept the gold, the Dragon family has made a decision that we're going to offer gold bounties on these people. A civil war raging behind the scenes. It was a huge attempt to remove Keir Starmer, who is a Rockefeller stooge, and the fake King Charles are using, and that fight is going to continue. So we're putting out a bounty on the fake King Charles and Keir Starmer because they have to be removed. They're Rockefeller agents. They do not work for the British people. And, these people have been doing horrible things for a long time. In Canada, they set up this whole fake, genocide of First Nations PSYOPs campaign to try to destroy Canada's image. It was financed by the Rockefeller brothers, who also trying to prevent Canada from exporting oil to Asia by hiring fake First Nations activists. And I'm telling you right now, they're all going to be arrested. They're as working for the Rockefellers. We're going to wipe out their network in Canada. It's already happening. Canada is free from these people now, and they're going to help the American people restore democracy. Okay? What we're saying is we don't want these hidden oligarchs using actors pretending and screenwriters to control what the American people do in the future. We want the American people to actually elect their own leaders and not just, be foisted upon with hired hands who do what they're told by their secret handlers. This is not going to be allowed to happen. I know now there's also an attempt to make it look like it's the Italian black nobility who are really behind the scenes, people like the Orsinis and stuff. And I went to Italy, I met these people, and they're not the problem, okay? These people do have a long-term project to create a world republic. They want, a world republic government such as you see in the SF series like Star Trek, enslave the rest, and set up a satanic rule headquartered in Greater Assyria, mistakenly called Israel. So these people are not the problem. The problem has been identified as the Rockefeller Hitler bloodline, and we need to go after them because they're obviously not going to step quietly into the night. And it's been scientifically proven. I'm amazed that the U.S. military and the police have not come in and arrested these people yet, because they really do need to be arrested. In any case, there is an international boycott of the Rockefeller interests, and that is why the American people are suffering, because the Rockefellers are trying to squeeze money out of them in order to survive. They're also trying to do that in Japan by bankrupting farmers while forcing consumers to pay double what they pay for rice despite abundant harvests. This is all an attempt to squeeze money out of the people in the countries they control in order to avoid bankruptcy. And we're going to go after them until they're finally removed from control of the Federal Reserve Board and the financial system. Of course, the bounty is also on Scott Bessent. And if you wish to collect the gold, you can go to either Taiwan, Hong Kong, or I believe the Iranian people. If you go there, they would be happy to provide gold if these people are removed and help destroy the satanic state of Israel and replace it with the God-fearing state of Judea. So we're going to keep fighting there, but I'm just so sick and tired of the entire fake. They're losing the ability to suppress the story. At this point, a majority of people in the West realize this. We just need to have the military take action. Another thing that's coming out is people are now realizing that chemtrails are real and that this is something that also has to be stopped. Take a look at this clip from a whistleblower who was actually involved in creating the chemtrails to understand the sort of things these people have been doing.
Hi, Ben. We have our first question for today. It says, could it be possible that the data centers are just large-scale terraforming machines in disguise? They seem to excel at using large amounts of power to deplete entire regions of water, which would turn the Earth into a desert if deployed the way that they are planning. What are your thoughts on this?
There are a lot of people who say that the aim of the data centers is to replace humans with AI and AI-controlled robots. So this would be the ruling elites who still control the Fortune 500 companies, trying to stay in power by replacing humans with robots, which they hope to stay in control of. That's quite a real possibility, but for sure there's no legitimate business model to explain the trillions of dollars being invested in these data centers. All they do now is they basically plagiarize from real historians and real journalists, and they don't provide a lot of original thinking. They don't provide any original thinking. It's all plagiarism or stuff they're told to regurgitate. So it's wrong, and we need to stop it. Next question.
Hi, Ben. Could you please comment on the corruption in the SAPs in South Africa and what you expect is likely to happen?
You know what? All I know is that South Africa set up a fake Mandela to keep the old regime in power, and I'll have to look more into the situation to make a more meaningful comment about what's happening there now. I'll try to do that for my Monday report. I haven't been following very closely, but I do know that Winnie Mandela did say that her husband would be replaced by a fake, and that the whole situation there is not what it's supposed to be. And I hope that the people of South Africa, including the ones with European ancestry, work together to make that country economically strong and fair for all peoples. And they should not try to promote race wars of any sort. Next question.
Hi, Ben. One thing that nobody seems to notice, when Donald Trump was sworn in as president, he did not place his hand on the Bible. Check out the videos and you will see that it is correct. Does this mean that he is not really our president because he was not properly sworn in?
What I was told at the time was that the reason the Donald Trump in the video did not put his hand on the Bible was because he was an actor, and that the real Trump did put his hand on the Bible at a separate ceremony, which for security reasons was held away from the public. However, that Trump has been replaced by a fake satanic puppet now. So the person who is now pretending to be Donald Trump is definitely not a Christian or a believer in God. He's a Satanist, a puppet, and the Christian people, including the Catholic Church, are in the forefront of trying to remove this satanic filth that took over the government in the United States, and I wish them the best. Next question.
I bet it. With everything going on in the current world, there doesn't seem to be much certainty of anything. What would you suggest that people do to prepare in the events that the White Hats do lose this war?
The most important thing is to remember that whatever's closest to you is most important. So, what you need to worry about is making sure that you have access to a food supply no matter what. And that includes, going out to the countryside, making friends with farmers and going to farmers markets. And worry about things like your friends, your pets, your own personal work, and try to ignore the hysteria on our screens, because what's happening is the controllers of the sort of great public story have lost the plot. And so my advice is if you think the White Hats are losing, is to turn off your screens and focus on the real world, because they'll never get control of the real world. All they can do is take control of the fake world on our screens.
The escalation into World War III, like I said, would start this week on Saturday, and Sunday I was like even more confirmed about it. And Monday I was like, it's coming. And so today it's on. It's on like Donkey Kong. And so what started it? What made it really kick off? Of course, I think that we've been building up to this point so that we could do these strikes. And the strikes are basically taking down the radars at this point, and they're coming in and they're starting to take down more and more of the Iranian leadership, right? So maybe because we took down one of their top guys, again, they came after an Apache helicopter, and who knows? We haven't heard yet how that was taken down. But what's really cool is the pilots of that Apache helicopter. They're in the water for 2 hours. That's a long time, but fortunately, that's warm water over there. I've been in it quite a bit, and a drone boat rescued them. So probably drones dropped them, and a drone rescued them. Right? So pretty crazy. I've been saying that drone warfare is on another level, and it's going to continue to increase more and more because it's the future. All right. So that, and we're going to see Ilhan Omar go to jail. All right. That little savage Somalian. All right. So, she's her fraud and her marrying her brother is going to be the end of her, because basically that's a felony when you come in and, defraud your citizenship, which she did. And of course, she defrauded the people of Wisconsin on a massive scale. She went from $38 million all the way down to $50,000, but they're like, oh, no. So they seized, I guess they just seized her husband's wealth, and they're going to probably give it back to the people. Still not all that's been stolen, but it'll help. And so she'll lose her citizenship and she'll go to jail, right? Because a lot of you are like, send her back to Somalia. I'm like, no. Everywhere I've seen that, all throughout social media, I will come in and make comments on that. It's like, no, she loses her citizenship and goes to jail, and then she'll get shipped out after she does her jail time. All right. So let's keep that thought. Let's keep that, motivating intensity. Earthquakes, speaking of intensity, earthquakes are spreading. The intensities are increasing, and they're spreading all around the Ring of Fire, all right? And back and forth. Not just normally, they go from like New Zealand and go from left all the way around to right and down and out. They're going back and forth now, all right? And increasing intensity. So we're going to see that continue. We may have a Carrington event. We're going to discuss that. A Carrington event, which is basically an EMP, electromagnetic pulse, which would basically shut down our cars, shut down our internet, shut down 5G, and everything. So we would go dark. in a lot of different ways. Probably, transformers or electricity would go dark. It would be intense, but it seems like we might be moving in that direction. So we'll talk about that as well. Stock shock, right? So stock market all-time highs just a few days ago, and now it is crashing. And I think it's just a natural pullback, right? So it's going to go a lot higher. Silver and gold and everything is pulling back. I'm buying it as much as I can, and we're probably going to see it continue to come back down a little bit more, right? So, of course, it's up 100% from its low less than a year ago, or about a year ago. So about a year ago, it was 32. Right now, 664, probably going to 60 soon, right? And then maybe even lower. So as it goes down, I just keep buying more and more. It's like, oh, thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Can I have a little bit more, a little bit more? But at some point, it's gonna take all of the people that are, using leverage to buy stocks and silver and so forth. It's going to wash them out. This normally happens. This is usual. I'll show you guys where silver has been, going sideways, and this is basically the setup for which it does all the time for ultra new highs. Ultra, all right? So this is absolutely happening, right? So anyway, let's look at also, let's just look at that, and that'll be enough, right? So there's so much going on. I'm like, this is why sometimes it takes me a while to come on, because I'm like, oh God, I gotta show that. Oh, geez, I was looking for something, and look at that. It's like, it's just non-stop. It's just crazy. And I just want to get on every few hours and start hearing stuff. It's like, but I have to, this kind of, you bought your silver back in for 23 in 2020, and then it all got sold. So this always makes me sick to my stomach. Yeah. Buy and hold, guys. So this is the early stages of a bull market. So this gold and silver do this. They go up, they go down, and then they go really high. All right. So this is we're in only the first couple years of probably what's going to be 8 to 10 years worth of bull market. So yeah, don't sell it. I know a lot of people panic, and that's why we see these these whoosh, it goes down, because the people on margin and have bought on debt and so forth, use their credit cards. Credit card debt right now is the highest ever. Buying anything with your credit card should be paid off your credit cards, because whatever you're paying on your credit cards is sometimes not going to equal the amount that you're going to make, right? Although silver, it's definitely have been doing that, because I think we saw from silver last year was around $32 this time, and it went up almost four times, definitely four times, and the stock market, if it goes up 25% in a year, that's like hallelujah. Everybody's like dancing in the streets. But we saw silver go up four times. Of course, silver went sideways for years and years and years and years, and everybody's like, when's it going up? And we were telling you, don't worry about it. It's going to go up. Just keep buying as much as you can. Dollar cost average in. We're dollar cost averaging in again, guys. All right. So you're getting a buying opportunity that's very unbelievable. Remember, like several years ago, we said when silver went to $70, it was like, this is like the most incredible buying opportunity. You better not pass this up. Many of you did that. And as I'm seeing, some of you sold. That's too bad, because you're going to see silver in the triple digits, well in the triple digits, and then eventually, I think maybe quadruple digits at the far end of the silver boom. All right, so up and down, silver does that, goes sideways, and then blows up. All right, so you never know when it's going to happen. You just take advantage of any pullback at this point and add to your positions. And occasionally, you may sell. I would sell when it's 300, sell a little bit, right? When it hits 500, I'm probably going to sell a little bit more. But I'll keep adding on a pullback. So if it gets a good pullback, I'll add to those positions. and to SILJ, which I'm doing SILJ on the stock market, silver juniors. I've been adding to it, and boy, is it going to be lovely when it goes back up. So you'll also see, crypto crash. So your winnings and your, the money you're going to be making on silver, you'll go in and buy XRP and Bitcoin at incredible lows, and then 2-3 years later, it's going to be blowing up again. So you just learn how to go, back and forth, move into different things. Hopefully you've been doing that. I've been trying to help you guys. I've been doing this. Yes, SILJ. Check it out. Probably going to get a little bit more of a pullback. Like I said, that doesn't mean don't start dollar cost averaging in, but you should be, adding to your positions as it comes down, and then dig in, all right, and watch it go up and have fun. All right, so let's look at some of the stuff that's out there. A robot picking up 2 downed airmen. Wow, it's a first. It's a first, and it's fun. I've been saying this. Drones are going to be the big thing. I've been saying it for a long, long time, and here we are.
Apache helicopter crew was shot down in the Middle East. An American-made drone boat, and it may have changed search and rescue forever. The American Apache helicopter went down Monday night in waters off Oman. Details of how the shoot-down occurred not revealed, and that part is a first. The U.S. Navy's Task Force 59, the military's AI and drone unit in the Middle East, revealed in a 2023 document the type of capability deployed to rescue the 2 soldiers: remotely operated uncrewed surface vehicles, USVs, used to locate the crew and bring them safely to shore. It is the first known time a drone boat has executed a personnel recovery at sea.
Boom. So yeah, that's a lot of fun. It's so whatever they were doing over there in the Middle East, Iran, shooting, firing off a bunch of drones. Now Iran is like, oh no, we didn't shoot any drones at them. The helicopter just crashed. The most advanced helicopter in the U.S. arsenal. I don't think so. All right, so they're not saying, what exactly happened yet. Will XRP go over $3 again? Of course, it'll go way over that. Just like Bitcoin keeps going up. So you just wait for the pullback. All right, and then add your position or start your position. I sold when it was around 3, and then I'm waiting for it to go down to 70. Then I'll start to add to my position. So, or add a position. So, and then 35, I think, in Bitcoin. And if it goes lower, that's great. I get more. So it's gonna be great. So, I've been well into the 7 figures and Bitcoin. Thank you, Bitcoin, and crypto space. I made lots of money on like Dogecoin, and then I made lots of money on XRP. So you just pick the winners. Who knows who the winner is going to be next time? Is it going to be Bitcoin? Is it going to be Ethereum? Is it going to be XRP? Maybe, probably that will go up, but they haven't been going up that much as they used to. All right, so you find other ones that are going to go up more. I think XRP will be one of those, but we'll have to check that. I'll keep you guys informed. Yeah, and I'm not the ultimate expert on this, but I have made quite a lot. All right, so and next go around there will be 8 figures in this. So 7 figures, that was great. 8 figures, well into the 8 figures. All right, so some of you are like, I would like 4 figures. That's great. Just follow along, and when we get too close to the bottom, we let you guys know, and then maybe you might want to start to add. It's up to you. You have to trust your intuition. That's what I'm all about, the intuitive guy, right? So, all right, let's look at Goldie Kamari is showing us and has been talking about how we need to go in, and I'm with her on this. We need to go in and take out that regime in Iran. I don't know what all this back and forth was. We're going to make a deal with them. You don't make deals with terrorists, right? Hasn't the U.S. said that for a long time? Yeah. So the Iranian regime is a terrorist regime, and it will be going bye-bye, and we'll see that happen pretty soon. All right, so let's listen. Trump is like, he's basically, I'm done. Yeah, okay. Come on, I don't know what you guys are doing in the Trump, administration, but I guess we'll find out later. Maybe you've been building up. That's my guesstimate. They've been just building up and getting ready to, hammer down.
I mean, I kind of do know where to begin, but you know what I mean. Things have heated up, and things have literally gone from like 0 to 100 within the span of 24 hours. And I believe that this is all because the Islamic regime, the terrorist Islamic regime, that's been occupying Iran for the last 47 years, made the critical mistake of attacking the US military. And if you were watching the Goldie show last night, I said that President Trump is not going to let that attack by the terrorist Islamic regime against the US Apache helicopter, endangering the lives of 2 US military men. He's not going to let that go unanswered. Because President Trump's response to that aggression by the terrorist and illegitimate Islamic regime, that response is not really for the Islamic regime itself. Because the entire world is watching right now. The enemies of the United States are watching right now. And so President Trump knows that. He understands that. The people around him, Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, they know that. Ted Cruz, Lindsey Graham. By the way, congrats, Lindsey Graham. You got reelected with like an overwhelming majority. So happy for you. We love you, Lindsey Graham. Thank you so much for everything you're doing for Iran.
All right. So, yeah, there's a lot of people out there that have been watching this show, right? And I've been watching them going like, what are you guys doing? Right? Go in and just hammer them, get them out. You're wasting time. And I think they have a better idea, what's going on than I do, of course. But they have probably set up for very nice strikes that will take this regime down, maybe even faster. So we'll see. Now, they have definitely been building up, and we'll see just how much firepower they have. Now, you guys know that I believe that they go in, they take out all of the air defense, and then they can go in and start taking out a lot of other things that need to be taken out. They put special forces guys on the ground, which probably are already there, right? So and hook up with some of the the guard, the new guard. They have the Immortal Guard. It's that's Persian, all the way back to Alexander the Great when he conquered Persia. It was the Immortal Guard that he went against. So hopefully the Immortal Guard does a lot better this time. So we'll have Americans and I don't know, maybe some Israelis, and I don't think the Brits are involved. I think the Brits are like, not so much. And that's a leadership problem. But you're seeing in Britain and in Ireland, I think what the future is, and that is they're basically, I won't say rioting. They're all hitting the streets and they're protesting against illegal immigrants. And they're going to, like, either illegal immigrants are going to go away or they're going to go away, right? And the way that people are going to make them go away is not going to be pretty, right? So they have been attacked by illegal immigrants, and they're fed up with it. They didn't vote to have these illegal immigrants come into their country. Did we vote to have illegal immigrants come into our country? No. All right, so that shit's going to get reversed, and it's going to get reversed by these politicians, or we're going to do it. We the people throughout Europe, we the people in the Western countries. I'm also speaking for Australia and New Zealand. So you see the Maoris, they're doing their dance, and they're burning the Muslim flag. It's like, whoa, don't mess with those guys. So it is moving in the direction of basically kicking them out. So like I said, you're going to see Ilhan Omar. She's going bye-bye into a cell for a long time for stealing and oh yeah, not going to be good. Not very good for her. All right, and that's good. And it's probably not going to be good for a lot of those Somalis. A Somali in Ireland, and this is why the Irish started to rebel in the streets and started burning the places where the illegal immigrants are living at their expense. All right, so there was one scene where this Somali was like sawing the head off a guy in the street, and it was pretty brutal looking, and so that got everybody pretty riled up. That was the last straw on the camel's back, right? So now it's starting to go to Europe or UK, or they're done with it. You got Tommy Robinson, he's leading that. He's been trying to lead this for a while, and it looks like they're going to really push back. Now, this is the problem if we, the people, have to do this on our own to clean that out. Because when we're done cleaning that out, we're coming for the politicians, we're coming for the judges, and we're coming for the law enforcement. They didn't do it. Right? So there's going to be some blood in the streets. You politicians and law enforcement and judges, you better wake the hell up, or you're going to be hanging from some poles. All right? All over the place. All right? It's not going to be pretty. And then we'll get some people that will do the right job, and then things are going to be hunky-dory, and it'll be nice. But we go through this process every 400 years. Every 400 years. You go back in time, it's like every 400 years, I guess we just, we kick their ass, and then we're like, okay, we'll be cool. You be cool. And then they just sucker us, right? And they infiltrate again, and then we have to go through this process once again. I say let's not do this anymore. All right, I say let's not do this anymore. Let's clean house, and let's clean it house for once and for all. All right, quit playing this game. All right, so let's look at Ilhan Omar about to go bye-bye. This is Ron Yates. Ron Yates is doing an exceptional job. Those of us that are doing, the job that the mainstream media should be doing, but it's been compromised, obviously, and it's captured operation throughout most of the Western world and the rest of the world, because I've been all over the world and I've seen the media, the Mockingbird media, all over the world, guys. So it has to be taken down. And those of us that are citizen journalists, like moi, we are, bringing you guys the truth. We're doing the research. We're getting the insights, the contacts that are like real people doing the right thing, and we're changing. We're changing everything. It's a fantastic time. All right, Ron Yates, fantastic job.
The biggest in American history, and Ilhan Omar's name is in the file. Now, here's the part CNN forgot to cover. While Governor Tim Walz was busy not noticing $9 billion walking out of Minnesota, and Attorney General Keith Ellison was also busy not noticing, and the Biden DOJ was doing its trademark impression of a very expensive potted plant, the Trump DOJ just quietly opened the biggest citizenship revocation case that this country has ever seen. In fact, Ilhan Omar, fake marriage, frozen assets, a fake daycare in Texas, a $9 billion fraud machine, and a Treasury terror unit that already froze her husband Tim Mynette's funds. The sham marriage, the $30 million money trail, the cover-up, the foreign interference, it's all connected. And for the first time, someone in Washington actually cares. Today, we give you exactly what the media had buried, every receipt, every name, every dollar. If you're new here, welcome. Glad you guys showed up. Hit the subscribe button right now because, guys, we've been right about this for years, and we are just getting started. And, of course, if today's video delivers, and it will, do a us a small favor on the way out. Hit the like button. Totally appreciate that. 1 second, costs nothing, helps thousands of people find the truth. Oh, one more thing before we dive in. If you or someone you love is on Medicare or turning 65 sometime soon, you need to know about Chapter. Let me tell you something, guys. Completely free Medicare help, real human beings, plain English, hearts of a teacher, no salesman over there. Look, zero sales pressure, because Medicare should not require a law degree. I know it's super duper complicated, but these guys make it super duper simple, and I love simple. So click the link in the description down below, or give them a phone call at the phone number at the bottom of your screen here. The average senior saving.
All right, Minneapolis. Somebody just corrected me. So Minneapolis, that's what Ilhan Omar is.
$1,100 a year. All right, guys, let's go. Here's what actually happened.
Now, through one announcement, the Trump administration says it is seeking to denaturalize 17 foreign-born American citizens. They're all being accused of concealing criminal conduct or fraud or using false identities during the immigration process. Others were accused of fraud and financial crime.
Fraud, you're going to do it in a way that's illegal. You should be aware who our targets are. We are not limiting ourselves to anybody in particular, except to say that unfortunately, and I think you're going to hear more about this in the coming days and weeks, there are immigration fraud going on here. These are deportable denaturalization offenses. Can you give us an update on that?
Yeah, so we actually think that Ilhan Omar definitely committed immigration fraud against the United States of America. And I talked to Stephen Miller about this actually recently. We're trying to look at what the remedies are. That's the thing that we're trying to figure out, is what are the legal remedies now that we know that she's committed immigration fraud? How do you go after her? How do you investigate her? How do you actually do the thing? How do you build a case necessary to get some justice for the American people? There's a related issue, Benny, which is she has been at the center of a lot of the worst fraudsters in the Somalian community. So do I know that Ilhan Omar was aware that the Quality Learning Center was defrauding the American people? I'm not certain of it.
It's got no government. It's got no military. It's got no anything. It's got one thing that's really strong: crime. It's got a lot of crime. They have no police. All they do is run around shooting each other.
Somalia.
It's filthy, dirty, disgusting, dirty. It's a horrible place. They come here.
I have been there. It is not so fun. It's not a good place. And I have a lot of my buddies that were in that shootout that happened there. You know, it is, they're crazy people. And now we have them in the United States.
And Ilhan Omar, you ever hear of it? She hates it. And think of it. They have nothing but crime, poverty, pollution. Everything is horrible over there. Nothing good. They say it's the worst country anywhere in the world, that we got some beauties out there, but it's the worst. And then she comes here from Somalia, and she tells us how to run the United States of America. She says, the Constitution gives me certain rights. And I demand that I be given these rights. Get the hell out. What a phony. And then she married a brother to come in. I don't know, you know. But I would imagine they're looking at her. I have nothing to do with it. I would imagine. Of course I have nothing to do. I have nothing, but I believe she married her brother, which is totally illegal. Although it's a lovely couple, actually, but it's a little bit on the illegal side. Darling, I love you very much. Good night, brother. Let's go to bed.
Ilhan Omar committed immigration fraud. Treasury's anti-terror unit froze her husband's assets. A House report confirms Minnesota officials covered up to $9 billion in fraud. The DOJ investigation into Ilhan Omar and a foreign national is ongoing. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is a federal paper trail. Is it over? No. Has she been charged? Not yet. Could judges block parts of this? Possibly. But this ain't 2022. This is the sitting vice president, the DOJ, the House oversight, and the Treasury all pointing at the same name. The walls are closing in. 17 people just found out that those walls are real. Ilhan Omar's next. Or she is. But for the first time, the machinery is actually running. So we'll be watching, and we'll tell you exactly what happens. Now, before you go, I want you to...
All right. So amazing information coming out against these criminals. And we've been saying that we want these people put away. So they're building the case. It's the walls are closing in. The walls are closing in. So it's very exciting to see this. She has to go to jail, guys. She loses her citizenship and she goes to jail. She doesn't go back to Somalia with her millions and millions of dollars of bullshit, right? She gets basically all that found and taken away from her, assets seized, and given back to we the people, right? And this is going to be something that's going to start to happen for a lot of them, right? She needs to be put away for a very, very, very long time. That's right, Mary. Jail, jail, jail. Let's chant it, right? Jail for Omar. God, I can't believe how long this has been going on, but we're getting close to really see some action. All right, U.S. military says it's striking multiple targets in Iran, second day of renewed fire. And of course, Iran has, been constantly, fired. It's never been a peace. Iran continues to fire. Then we go in and like, oh, no. We're defensive. We're going to go in and be defensive and hit you. Although, weren't we supposed to be the Department of War? No, not Department of Defense. So let's get that on. Let's get that rocking. All right, second day of American strikes came hours after Bahrain, Kuwait, and Jordan, all of which host U.S. troops, came under Iranian fire. It was the third time this week that back-and-forth strikes have tested the 2-month ceasefire. They also came a day after the U.S. struck Iran following the crash of an Army Apache helicopter near the Strait of Hormuz that Trump blamed on the Islamic Republic. All right. So it's on. The intensity's upping. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, or his double 2.0 or whatever he is, appears intent on pursuing goals that make compromise harder. The collapse of Iran's theocratic government, the elimination of its nuclear program, and the destruction of the Iranian allied Hezbollah militant group in Lebanon. And so Lebanon keeps shooting missiles and drones into northern Israel. And from the tunnel systems, Hamas is still coming up and attacking Israeli troops. And I saw where 20 of them came out of a tunnel system and tried to overrun a checkpoint, Israeli checkpoint, and they get their butts handed to them. All right. So it's still on, guys. We can't kick back on these people. These people are like I said, we do this every 400 years, right? It's time to wherever they're at in our countries, all right, the Western countries, and causing problems, they need to be removed. They need to go back to their countries. Their countries were so great. Why did they leave them? All right. So Iran and all you other Somalis, all right. So you're going to get the opportunity to go back to that great country. And yes, you do not have constitutional rights when you're not. I say that if they don't integrate into American culture, then they go bye-bye, right? And that goes for all of them. So I guess in down in Texas, the Hindu from India, Hindus are coming over and they're not integrating at all either, right? Now I love Indian food and I love the Indian people, but if they're not going to assimilate, they got to go bye. They got to go back to where they came from, right? So yeah, bring your wonderful foods, your wonderful culture, and assimilate with America. We love everyone. We love all the cultures. But if you don't want to be an American, don't come to America. If you don't want to be, a Brit, don't come to Britain. Don't come to France. Don't come to Australia. If you're not willing to assimilate, then you have to go, right? And this is going to be the cry across the world, right? The outcry. It's coming. I shouldn't say it. I mean, because I've been in the thick of that stuff for like decades, guys, over 30 years. And it is, I'm like, this shit's going to get, these people are going to get stomped. Right. So they're way out of control. And, while I was, kicking their ass over all over the world, they were bringing them into America. So it will change. All right. Now, this is what's going on and the sun. So the sun is really getting active, and that's why we're having lots of earthquakes. And I'm going to go into the earthquake stuff here in a second and show you what I've been looking at. I've been following this stuff for a long time and following some really good people like Stefan Burns and many others. So this potentially could be with the way the sun is acting, we could get this Carrington event, which is basically EMP, like I talked about earlier.
The plasma that's recently been ejected from the sun has been much more confined than normal. So typically it spreads out and creates this wave that spreads out. And that's why when we see something like this, there's a forecast that's issued that, okay, well, by the time it reaches 1 astronomical unit or Earth's orbit, it's going to have to spread out a little bit further, therefore it will hit us. Instead, we only had the shock wave hit us, and none of this bulk plasma hit us from this. And that is what was expected, at least for some of this bulk plasma.
So back on around the 6th is when we had a pretty good plasma injection into Earth. And then we started having those earthquakes kick off. We had the 7.8 that happened down, and I'll show you how that worked opposite the way it normally does. And it went down and hit in the Philippines. It bounced around a little bit, and then wham, 7.8. Then it bounced all the way across to Cuba, 6.1. Then I was like, well, we're probably going to, I didn't say it in a show, but I was like, I'm watching, I'm like, we're probably going to see another pretty significant one pretty close to that. And sure enough, we did. Costa Rica got a 5.1. So you had a 6.1, 5.1. And I think California is really overdue, right? And remember what I say about consciousness, guys. So we get some serious issues going on in California. Everything's vibration. So if you have people that are allowing very bad things to happen, like we're seeing in California, you're gonna get something, right? And this is the way it's going to be going forward. So more earthquake, volcanic activity, and now we're getting these energy pulses that are coming instead of spread out like you're seeing here in a big wave. They're coming at us potentially in a very like a laser, right? So if they come at us like a laser, we're going to get a Carrington of that effect, and that's basically EMP.
Spread out, hit Earth, and trigger a G3 geomagnetic storm. Before that, there was also a very similar situation just about a week beforehand. Also paired up, though, with a coronal hole, transequatorial, that swept through. It was tiny, tinier than this one. And that also was looking like we were going to have a G3 storm. Even isolated periods of G4, I was thinking it was going to be a G4 storm. It was looking quite significant. We didn't even get to G3 levels with that. But what happened was those solar storms came in, combined with this co-rotating interaction region, high-speed stream, and all layered together and impacted us. And we can see that if we look here at our real-time display, and you see these two impacts. So here's the one that was earlier in June. This is the 5th of June right here, okay? And
all right, so I'm going to show you guys around the 3rd is when we had a bunch of quakes out of Oregon coast. That's a fault zone. That's probably going to give us a big tsunami at some point. So we had some rumblings over there, and it seemed to like go around usually goes right from left to right. This time it went from right to left, and I'll show you guys that. I'll just walk you through, what I saw, what I'm looking at, and this is very unusual. This is an unusual pattern. And then not only is it going from left to right to left, it's going straight across as well. Like I just mentioned. I'll point that out here in a second.
We got up to about 20 for our solar wind, so for the magnetic field, not super strong, but our velocity did go up to about nearly 800 kilometers per second, more like 700. Density went up and dropped. Here's where the second solar storm came in. The one that we thought was going to hit us didn't hit us. Barely hit us, basically. Just a shock wave, didn't drive any geomagnetic activity. So why am I showing you all this? Well, this is just showing, at least these past two solar storms, that the plasma stayed much more confined and narrow than normal. And what this means is that if we were to truly get a big solar storm to launch our way, and if this trend continues, and there's some evidence that that's the case, if we were to truly get a historic solar storm to launch towards Earth, something like the Carrington event, under this circumstance, it's not going to spread out and dissipate its strength. Instead, it's going to come in almost like a laser beam. Now, we don't know if that's going to happen or not, but we are seeing some initial evidence that there is this potential for a solar storm to stay very, very tightly column.
So this is what's happening. The solar storms usually come in a broad way, and now they're coming in potentially and very tight, and that can cause massive electronic disruption.
You could say it hit us, and that could trigger an electromagnetic pulse. If it's sufficient enough to hit the upper atmosphere, there's some characteristics required for this to occur. I'll talk about them. Then that's the case. Now, a moderator here saying that the sun can never create an EMP that hits us. That's incorrect. Sorry, dude. We get EMPs all the time from these solar storms. The question is how strong they are. With a sufficient strength solar storm impact, that could happen. So that's one of the big.
All right, so that's something we need to be aware of. That's always been a problem. Potential problem, because we had a Carrington event back in the early 1800s. That's when we had the telegraph lines. They used to have the Pony Express, and then they got the telegraph lines, and it changed everything. It's kind of like what's going on. What happened when we got newspapers, and then we got the internet. Newspapers pretty much gone, and then now we have AI. So we're progressively increasing the technology. AI obviously has to be looked at pretty hard. We don't want it to get too out of control. All right. And there could be some problems with that. But for the most part, at this point, it's been very beneficial. Of course, the internet, has had some very negative things going on with it too. You got, child porn and all kind of crazy stuff going on over there. That YouTube and Instagram, for a long time, I don't know if that's still going on because it was really pointed out, we're allowing. All right, so that is one of the things that we see as a negative, but is like what we're sharing right now. We're basically bypassing the Mockingbird media, and so this is a good thing. Of course, we have trollers come in here, make their stupid comments. That's kind of frustrating, but I know you guys that are moderators do a really good job of it. Occasionally I come over and clean a little bit. So I watch too, right? Not always. I don't always have the time. So I really appreciate you moderators. You guys are amazing. All right. So let's look at, the world as far as like the earthquake activity. At some point, I'll probably start doing volcanic activity as well. Now you see here these little yellow dots. Those are earthquakes. The bigger the dot, the bigger the earthquake. The orange ones are ones that happened more recently. There was a pretty good one in Hawaii. I have a friend in Hawaii that basically told me that last night. It was a big shaker. And so, again, that big 7.8 here in the Philippines. All right. I have to go in a little bit more because there's so many there, aftershocks and so forth. They're pretty significant size aftershocks. All right, I think it's right there. Yep, that's a 7.8. And that happened, I want you guys to notice a date, on 6/7, the 7th of this month. Now, if you look out here on the edge, this is, let's see if I can find it. That's 6/7. I might have to go in a little bit tighter. I think it's this one. Nope. So, nope, that's not it. And that's not it. That's 6/7. So there's one like on the 6th. Is that it up here? Thought it was a little bit closer. So that's the 4th. So they were starting to ring around here before this big one cooked off. And so anyway, there was one in here that was on this 6th. That was fairly significant one. It was kind of tight in there. But anyway, they were popping all around here, and then eventually it went big. So that's the 8th. So let me go back out again. So I'll take it back out, and this one up here I think was an aftershock. Yep, that's a 9th. And this one was early on. That was the 6th, right? So we had this one on the 6th, and there was like several more that were on the 6th, like this one out here. Nope, that's not it. Anyway, and that's the 4th. So that's the 4th, and there was one right in tight here that was on the 6th, just close to the one that went off. That was, I had it. So it was like I was able to click right on it. Whatever reason, I can't find it now. But anyway, it was there, and that was basically ringing this area, and so the ringing was getting to the point where it basically set off the 7.8. So that's kind of the thing I want to show you guys, that, and that one was the 3rd, all right, 6/3, and then we're going to go back up the other way. So that one was the 5th. All right, so they're starting to come in, and they're coming in from the top down. So there's one on the 4th. So as you see, they're starting to come down, and then they bracketed, and then boom, right? So that's kind of unusual, because like I said, they usually start over here in New Zealand, right? So New Zealand just had a pretty big one. That's a 6.0 right there. And then up here in the Tonga, there was a 5.4. So this is a lot of times where the big ones start. And then they go around left to right around the Ring of Fire. Now, as I'm pointing out, they started to come down. Kamchatka had a pretty significant one. I might have to dive in a little bit deeper. That's the 7th. That was the day of. Let me go deep into here. Japan had several of them that were on the 4th and 5th. Now they're starting to go back the other way. So they're coming back for the United States, right back towards us. Fairly significant one. So that's the 7th. There was a pretty big one on the 6th. 4.4. Anyway, there was a big one that happened off the coast. Remember, there was the 8.8 happened off of Kamchatka and caused the tsunami that, went all over the place, hit Japan pretty good. Then had one of the biggest tsunamis that the United States has had. It was the biggest. So as you can see, the Ring of Fire, this fault line that comes down, there's a lot more, of course. But right here, remember 6.6 was where, or 6.5 was around the time frame where that big energetic came into Earth and the Schumann resonance went up. So this is 6.3. So just before it, we had a 4.5 right off the coast. This is where that big fault line. See how this fault line comes together right here. This is probably where it's going to crack and cause a massive tsunami that's going to just like inundate most of the West Coast. So let's go out a little bit more so we can see all of this. Now, what's crazy is Australia rarely has earthquakes. We rarely have earthquakes on the eastern side of South America. They're all on the western side, just like the United States. Most are on the western side, the Ring of Fire, right? So you don't normally get a lot of earthquakes over here on the East Coast. But let me show you guys how if we go from 7 to 30 days, we're going to go 2.5. Now watch this light up. Kaboom. All right, so lots of stuff that's happening here. Of course, that's 6.1. So this was after this one, the 4.8 on the 7th, and then almost the same day, but they have it down as the 8th. We have the 6.1, and then just recently on Costa Rica, yesterday we had the 5.1, 6.1, 5.1 next day, all right? So this stuff is starting to heat up all along here. This is all the way back on the 5th, Santa Maria, Mexico. Look at all the stuff that's happening all across the United States now, too. All right, it's starting to kick the United States. So this is what I'm talking about. And we had the more recent one in Hawaii, 4.7. That was today, or late last night, Hawaii time. So today, it basically happened. And so this bounce all the way across here, and we're starting to get, it's coming back left to right. And so we're getting this bouncing back and forth. So I wouldn't be surprised. We have a pretty significant one in California. All right, 30 days. This is 2.5. Let's go all magnitudes. Look at all of that stuff. Look at California. It looks like it wants to blow up. All right. So, yeah, it's all that election fraud that's going on there. And I'm telling you guys, consciousness absolutely makes a difference. And you see a lot of this stuff is in the LA area. All right. So, you guys in LA, it's in your best interest to clean that shit up, but you're not going to. It's not going to happen. You guys are going to fail again, unfortunately, because that's the way it works for you guys, right? Now, I criticized Texas, and they got off their butts, and they started to get active. I was criticizing them for a couple of years, and they're like, oh, hell no. You don't criticize Texas. So Texas has been doing really good. Cali, bye-bye, Cali, all right? And I'll just keep, because, when I say shit about Cali, you guys cry. How dare you talk bad about us? You don't do anything. So that's why I know that you guys are not going to look so good going forward, right? And so get out of Cali. Right. So anyway, there are, significant things that are happening in the stock market. So even if you're in California, you can still make money, right? Because you're going to need it, because everything's going to go up, right? It's been going up like crazy already, and now it's really going to go up because you got all the people that have been like breaking your back are going to like pile it on. All those baddies that are there in California, and there's an easy way to get rid of them. Right? There's an easier way to get rid of them, but you guys are definitely not going to do that. So I don't know. Maybe it'll finally snap. Maybe you guys, after being burned out of your homes, that kind of got people motivated to vote, and you had great voting, and looked like you were going to get some people in there who were going to make a difference, and now they're stealing it. So this is the way. This is the way of California. All right. So you see, consciousness basically will make a difference going forward. Will California get rid of its illegal immigrants? No, they can't even get rid of their politicians that cheat on them. So anyway, let's look at things that you guys can do that will help you in many different ways. And that's the LifeWave X2O. So this is an incredible time. This water is not just increasing hydrogen enriched water or structuralized water. It is basically putting light into your body. Right. So unlike structured or hydrogen water, which primarily affects surface tension, let's get scientific here, or adds hydrogen for antioxidative benefits, David's water machine, David Schmidt, the inventor, he started patches for the Navy SEAL teams. Yeah, he's a badass. And manipulates the very geometry of the molecule. So I love science. And I love this water machine. This water machine has probably saved my life. Right? So I highly recommend it. Now, if you do decide to get the water machine, you can join my team if you're not already a brand partner. Now, you see, they used to be you had to get on a waiting list. The waiting list is gone because it's full-time available for brand partners. If you are not a brand partner, you can become a brand partner for only $25. And you see here, there's different ways to join. You get more patches. We recommend the X39, the Celergize. So I came in big. I got the premium. I got everything. And I love everything. But there's other ways you can join. You become a retail customer, preferred customer, or preferred customer plus, and there's different options for you there. Now, starter, you come in $25. You buy the LifeWave X2O right now, and you will go up to when you buy it, because you get points and all kind of bonuses and all kind of stuff. You buy it now. The special is you will get $100 a week for 5 weeks. So it's like getting $500 off your water machine. It's incredible. So this is the new special where you come in. If you're already a brand partner, you can buy it, of course, and I hope you are. A lot of you are. But if you're not, you've been watching, you're like, I'd like to get that water machine. $25, buy the water machine after you become a brand, and then you get, for the next 5 weeks, $100. You will zoom up to a 3-star manager. So the new compensation plan is coming out, and all of you that come in during this time frame, and this is not something new, it will continue, of course, but you will get that water machine for $500 off. So very cool. Very cool. All right. Now, the stock market, stocks are bust at this point. They're going down, and there's lots of fear. There's lots of people that bought on margin on credit, and they're losing their stocks. And when that happens, stock market goes into like a free fall mode, and it goes down very, very fast, right? And that's what we're seeing right now. So this is silver. Now, like I said, silver is, see this area right here, straight across. Silver's down to like, should have bought some. It was down to like 62, I think it was. So now it's back up to 65. So it's going to bounce around. Now, I think it came down and tested this low. So it looks like it did. So now, is it going to, take off from here? It didn't quite. It kind of tested it. So you see this low right here? It came down and it, like, I touch you, and then now I'm going back. So this is the way the stocks are, right? It's a back and forth movement. Now you see, went all the way up to 121 and some change, and then it came down, and it came down pretty precipitously. And this is the way, because look at how it went up. It went up in a way, and it was in a beautiful balloon, and then the balloon popped, and it came down, and now it's going sideways, up, down, up, down, up, down. It's like a military guy. Now this is the way of the silver, right? The silver outperforms when it decides it's going to, right? So let's go back in time. Let's go all the way back to this time last year. So here we are, June of last year, and we're about in the 30. Let's go back in to June, right? 34, 32, 34, 32 at the bottom, and then it zoomed up. It's like, boop, I'm going up, up and away. And so it was around 32, and then it just like in one day it went up like over $2. It was like everybody's like happy. It's like, wow, that's big. Yeah, and then it started going up. I said, you're going to start to see 3s and then 5s and then 7s and then 10s and then 12s. And then it did. It just went up, boom, 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 boom. And that's the way it does. So it's up 100% at this point from what it was a year ago. And from like, what was that? That was January. So from January to now, like 6 months or so, it has gone down 50%. So which do you like more, 100% or 50%? So if you bought it up here at 121, you're like, oh, I'm down 50%. But if you bought it back here, you're like up 100%. So, now, if you're buying it right here, you're probably, before the end of the year, you're going to be up 4x. That's my calculation. I think we're going to go up 4x from here, maybe as much as 8. Right? Definitely a 4, and I think the 4 is going to come fairly quickly. Maybe by the end of this month, it's going to really start to skyrocket, and then by the end of the year, we might be seeing 8x. So, what's been going on with the stock market? Let's look at the Nasdaq. You see, it's like it's falling. It's falling. So there's a lot of red there. Daily reds. Right now, some of you are like, I'm out. I'm just going to run away. That wouldn't be good. So if you're in the stock market, you should have a little bit in the stock market. I do. I have some in SILJ. That's the only thing I'm investing in right now. But and that's silver. That's silver miners. And so you see how over a 2-month period, stock market went up about 20 to 25%, something like that. And it's pulled back not even 10% yet. That's normal. That's abnormal, I think, but it's still normal. All right. So you would normally see a 20, 25% rise in the stock market over a year. And it happened in 2 months. So this thing is a little jiggy, right? So that's why I'm not investing in this radical back and forth. It's like neck snapping so fast it goes back and forth. All right. So I'm out, but I'm in silver, and silver is going to do really good. So you can invest in the Dow Jones. As you see here, it was down almost 1,000 today. The Nasdaq was down, I think it was 1,400 on Friday. Wow. And so it's neck snapping, right? Neck snapping. I don't like it. I don't like to have a neck snap. So don't do it. But some of you are in there, and if you're in there, hopefully you're like a 60-40 or 60-20-20. 60-20-20 is basically gold, bonds, and stock, right? At some point, you're going to want to get back into the stock market, but not until it's dropped 80%. Right? I would not get in the stock market right now. It's teetering. I still think it's going to go a lot higher. You still might see another 30% from here. Yes, from here. So it went 25% in 2 months. Why wouldn't it go 30% by the, I don't know, last quarter? Will it make it that long? I don't know. I think they're going to try and keep it pumped up through the election. So that's what I'm looking at. Now, the end of this week, that's when we're going to have Elon's rocket ship blast off. All right. So you're going to be able to invest in Elon's rocket. So now we've had a lot of Elon success, right? Tesla and what was that? What's the one where you like put your money in it? PayPal. So he did PayPal. He did Tesla. He did Dogecoin when Dogecoin was 0.00001. And I was like, well, Elon, he just rocks everything. I'm gonna get it to Dogecoin. Yeah, and that was my 7-figure Dogecoin move. So that was good. So we're gonna see this thing, probably go back up. All right, gonna be a little dead cat bounce maybe on Friday. Maybe it starts tomorrow, but we'll see. I don't think it's a little panic selling. I think it's going on right now. That's natural. That's normal. But we're gonna see this thing take off. All right. So that's my thoughts on that, and we'll see. We'll see if it does it. SpaceX. That's right. SpaceX, and I wouldn't invest in it, all right? But a lot of people will, and it will go up, and they'll make some profit. Will they get out? Will they take that profit? That's the way it is. Now, I've been slaughtered in the stock market, and I learned my lesson, right? So I get in, I get out. I get in, I get out. I get in, get out. Get in, get out. Sometimes that does not work, but most of the time it does. If you're a long-term observant, and watching things like Bitcoin. It's like it goes up, it goes down. And everybody's like, it's going to 1 million. I'm like, I don't think so. And then it goes down a lot. And then that's when you want to get in, all right? Because before the halving, all right? So it's every time it halves, before it halves, it takes off. And then after it halves, it takes off some more. And then everything else takes off. But they take off in different times. Like Ethereum might take off before the halving, or it might take off after the halving. So you just watch. You watch the different cryptos over time. You watch how they react. You watch stocks, how they react over time to different things. So we'll see a super bubble in the stock market, and then it will pop, and it will go down 80% or more. And then that's when you buy stock. That's when you start buying stocks. That's when you buy SpaceX, not at the top, guys. But most people will buy it at the top, and they will get slaughtered. All right. So some people are smarter than me, or they think they are. Right. And then they get slaughtered, and they're like, I was so right, but I'm not going to tell everybody that I wait, and then I pounce, and then I get my fill, and then it comes out the other end. And I go off and do another one. All right. So, all right. So that's the way that's the way of the world. And that's the way of the markets. Now during this time frame where we're going to be like kicking the hell out of Iran and everybody else that looks like them, and then we're going to start to do the same thing here in the United States and Europe. Europe is showing us what's coming. Right. So we're seeing what's coming to America. The Iranian, not Iran, but the UK, the Londoners, UK, and the Irish, the Fighting Irish. Right? Don't mess with the Irish. Smalley guys like stabbing that Irish guy. That guy's still alive. It's like, what the heck? Good job, man. And fights for his life. Even though most people would be gone. So then his buddies came and started beating him with like shovels and all kind of crazy stuff because they don't have guns. Oh, they're gonna get guns. Yeah, they'll get guns. The Irish know how to get guns. All right. So it'll happen, and then those people that push this on the people, it will be their time then. After that, all right. And if they're smart, they'll get the hell out now. All right. Yeah, I messed up. I brought all those savages over here to savage you. I'm just gonna like go out the back door now and quietly. But those that like speak out, like stop. We work so hard to bring these savages here to take over your jobs and your lives, and stop. It's like hold that thought, right? And then it'll be like swinging in the wind. All right. It's on tonight. Ireland is on fire tonight. All right. And that's not going to stop until they're done. And then, like I said, they're going to come after the politicians, the judges, and the law enforcement. It's like that guy in the UK where poor kid crying out that he couldn't breathe. Kind of like, George Floyd, but, I guess because he wasn't black, he was white these days. So again, every 400 years, we got to fight back and stop that shit. So here we are. All right, guys, lots of love. Stay in the love vibration. I know sometimes it's hard, but that's the only way we win. You might say, well, how can we hit the streets and protest? That's where you stay safe. Because that's what I did in J6 in DC. I was in the love vibration. Nothing happened to me. All right, guys. Lots of love. Stay in love vibration, and I'll see you guys next time.
So exactly when the trigger's pulled on some of these arrests, which in the case of, say, a John Brennan, even with the grand jury, President Trump, because it involves matters of national security, is reserving the right to agree and allow it to happen with exacting precision. So there's some date certain coming, and we're in the season, but exact timing, he's not giving that away. And there may be, it's not about a date time checkpoint solely. It's about a threshold. Certain things have to have reached a certain point of development, a crossroads, and then you take that option. And we haven't quite reached those crossroads yet. So there's yet more to happen before these next things. The rest are really where it starts to get real for people, and then there's further disclosures based on who's arrested, on what basis, and how the prosecution's going to happen. Is it going to happen within the Justice Department and the local and federal courts, or is it going to happen within the military? Because remember, when our election system here in America was attacked, it was by foreign actors, nation states. Ultimately, those servers in the server farm in Serbia were being operated by Venezuelans under Cuban intelligence agency supervision, Cuban operatives. Remember when we went in and got Maduro, all of his security teams were Cuban. That's why the people of Venezuela were so thankful, because they were, you couldn't get a driver's license without a Cuban agreeing to let you get it. They were running the country. Maduro was just their puppet. And that's also the case through much of what we're going to discover over the next weeks, months, years, is that China, Cuba, Venezuela, Serbia, a number of national, international organizations were colluding to allow remote voting, drop boxes for your votes, people not being able to gather together correctly, the machines being used in wonky ways, and you couldn't investigate to stop the American people from being able to interact, investigate, and stop. It cost tremendous amount of life in America and across the world. And American elections, it was aimed at elections across the world to get you to where we just all vote on our cell phones. You'd never get another honest election for the rest of your life. You'd have the appearance of an honest election, and all the theater and everything else is just a magic act by magicians. Just like the priests of Baal did a magic act. We're going to have God above take your child. He requires child sacrifice. When in reality, what was it really about? It goes back to Cain and Abel. If Cain was a hybrid and child of Lucifer, Satan, the devil, if you will, which is what the occult believes. Doesn't matter if it's true or not, it's what they believe. You don't see it in the Bible, that's fine. Although it doesn't list Cain as a child of Adam. He's not in the line, not because he did something evil, because he wasn't a genetic child of Adam. Eve was beguiled. Where did this entity, this creature, come from? What's this creature's origins who found his way into the garden? In their belief, he's one of the 200 that fell from heaven to the top of Mount Hermon and then came down off the mountain and eventually built a city built around child sacrifice, which children were being sacrificed. Think of this. It's said that the 200 at Mount Hermon that fell from the sky, they were all male, and they preferred the company of each other, kind of implying maybe a homosexual or something like that, but also intellect, etc. They were, from on high somehow, fallen angels of some sort, fallen creatures, humanoid, not human, not directly descendants of Adam, in order to go forward with the planet. Well, was part of that just the same as at the city of Baal? If there's any chance that you're a pure descendant of Adam and Eve, and not a hybrid, Eve and Lucifer, Satan, the devil, the green man, for he hid amongst the green leaves of the garden, and beguiled Eve, taught her the trick, and then she went and showed Adam the trick. She had twins, but by two different fathers in the same birth cycle. That's the way it's believed. That's their belief. That's the occult. Doesn't matter if it's true or not. It's just what they believe. So you're fighting a religion. And they believe that they have to take the population down to just the hybrids and get rid of everybody else and start over. So there's no direct descendants of Adam.
I think we just lost you there, Juan, for a little moment.
Not sure if you could still hear us.
Audio, anyway. Just wanted to ask, are they the... Yeah.
We lost you after you were talking about how wonky it would be for King.
I'm sorry, I had a call coming in again.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I had a call coming in. I apologize. But you see what I'm saying? There's this continuing theme over and over and over again in this good versus evil and who inherits the planet. This is for the whole planet. I've mentioned those stories before, but we may have new people. The story of Osiris and Set, two gods, brothers. But one being Set was supposed to be, very kind to humans, loved humans, took care of them, everything else, watched out for them. Osiris was the most wicked of the gods, running the earth, these ones that fell from heaven, and chopped his body into 14 pieces, spread them all over the world. The mother goes out and finds all the pieces of the evil son, except for one, and reattaches the body to itself. And in this god occult, world, fairy tale, fable world, if she can get his body reassembled before sunset, and the world today, for example, President Trump has called the American people to come to the National Mall in Washington, D.C., and rededicate America to God and his services, and to good and to righteousness. Where are we going to be at? In a city built around occult, evil themes. The Washington Monument, in the cult that was running the way Washington, D.C. was built, the way it was designed, the Washington Monument symbolically is the penis of Osiris from the tale that I just told you. And the whole city is built around the occult themes of Isis, Osiris, Set, Horus, the angles of the streets, the buildings and their sizes and their orientations. Look at the Pentagon, 5-sided building. What's 5 mean? It's the number of grace to Christians, judgment, destruction within the occult. Why do you build the Pentagon with 5 sides? What does the Pentagon orchestrate and supervise? And so the numbers do mean things. The alignments do mean things. When we go to Washington, D.C., it's not to be in agreement with this horde symbology. It's to retake this national city for good and not for evil, and to stand against that symbology that others put into play and into place, to steal the vision of America that goes back to the Pilgrims, even prior to the Constitution, which is even more important. And that's why President Trump, he's carrying his Bible that's a gift that goes back to a revival that happened in his mother's time and grandmother's time, uh, not for just America, but for the world, and a move of God in the world, across the world, that is needed at this crucial moment in time, coming full circle. So, and I don't want to dominate everything. You got Sheila here. You got one of the great minds on a lot of these things. Also, am I on track here, Sheila? Is there anything that I'm forgetting to add here that people need to be aware of?
You're on top of all of it. The Osiris, people don't realize Nimrod. It's all the same god. Nimrod said he went to the sun and came back as Baal, the sun god, for everybody. And then when he went to Egypt, they deified him as Osiris and deified his mother as Ishtar, Easter in English, and also Isis. And when people get in the secret societies, they take oaths to all of this, and also to Ahura Mazda, the ancient religion of Iran that came out of Egypt. And people don't understand, because when you take those oaths, you're just doing it for a few seconds. So all of this is connected and related. And Nimrod, his mother was pregnant with his son before he was cut into pieces. And it was done by the other family members, because Nimrod was a great grandson of Noah. It was Cush, son, Nimrod. And so the brothers, the uncles and great uncles took this on, and they cut him into pieces and put him all over, saying, "This is your God." Now, is he going to bring his pieces back together? And so that part of the story hasn't been told, because Easter wanted it to be an immaculate conception. And so to duplicate the Immaculate Conception, they created this, and people have put up these symbols all over the world. I've heard there's over 300 around the world. When you go to the military funeral locations for the Civil War, it's sad to see all those soldiers with big obelisks on the top, or sometimes that's their whole symbol. At the end of World War I, our town, little small farm town, had the largest per capita per the Omaha Herald newspaper for World War I. And so all of those names that were sacrificed in World War I were put on what? In the center of town, an obelisk. Mm-hmm. And they've kept it, and now it's in the park in the town. We don't realize how these stories and what they become and what we think we believe in or what we think we know. And that's why there was somebody that put out in the chat that it doesn't matter if you don't understand these things, because Father's going to protect you under his wing. That's not how it works, guys. We've been deceived, and Father's very concerned about the deceivers, and they've spread throughout the land. So if you're a deceiver and you want to just tell people things that aren't from the Father, that's up to you. That's your choice, because everybody's making a choice. And you can say, I'm not choosing the other kingdom. But if you're living for the other kingdom, you are making that choice. And if you're choosing not to seek the truth, and choosing, once you know you're deceived, to continue to be deceived and continue down that same path, you have chosen. And so it's that simple. And those that are protected under the wing are the ones, the innocents. And the innocents are what Juan is focusing on today. We're letting this happen to the innocents who don't know. I mean, somebody just sent me pictures and want me to send it out. They've got Charles Schumer kissing kids on Epstein Island. I said, you guys, I don't care. I didn't even want to see this, but now I can't unsee it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's what these people have done, what the UNESCO, the UN people have done around the world with the children around the world. We didn't know. But now that we're knowing, it's time to take a stand. Now that we know, it's time for us to decide. Because if you think you're not deciding for the other kingdom, do you know you're deciding for the truth?
And so we've been chatting over here on the studio chat, and free will came up. And people think, well, yeah, but people have free will to think that they're going to be protected under the Father's wing. But guys, free will, Father gives it to you because he doesn't force you to choose him. It's your choice. But if you say it doesn't matter, he knows I love him, it does matter. And when we think we can't describe things to other people and we just get in arguments, what did Christ say? You may think you have all these gifts, all this knowledge, all this stuff, because people say, how come you can't convert everybody, Sheila? And I said, because it's a personal choice. And Father told me long ago, and I remember people wonder how I can say the same things that are in the books and everything else. I can tell you, when you're with the Father and he gives you a message about something, you never forget it. It's like it's just seared in your mind. And he said, Sheila, you keep trying to reach everybody. You can't reach everybody. You can love everybody because Christ said, no matter what goes on for you, love them. That's what they need, because when you start affecting them, judging them, going after them, telling them what they're doing wrong, how are they going to choose the Father who loves them unconditionally? Because you're not even expressing love toward them. And so he said, but Sheila, let's say it's 1,000 people that it takes to touch a life to have them choose me. You could be talking to them as number 575. You could even be number 999, and you're not going to witness it. I need you to keep moving, Sheila. I need you to keep talking to other people. I need you to keep spreading the information. And that 575-999 has never left my mind, because I did. I just kept going back to the same people, trying to help them choose different. And it's a personal choice by them. It has nothing to do, I may not be the one to say what they need. And I can see in some of the comments, you guys are getting frustrated because you're trying so hard on members of the family and everything else. My Father has told me who to stop praying for. You know why? When I keep praying for them, the demonic activity is so severe with them that their lives become completely miserable, because they're trying so hard to keep them encased. And I didn't realize that was even possible. And so Juan is covering so much depth today. I'm so appreciative to be on at the same time. And I can see you guys saying, would Sheila please come out and say something? And guys, I can't even, I'm so in it when Juan's speaking. And this is true whether we're on a phone call or whether it's something like today. I want to hear it all. And I don't take notes. And afterwards I go, darn it, why didn't I take notes? Next time I'm going to take notes. And doggone it, because when you're in it with the Father, it's not about refocusing and getting out a pen off to the side and making other notes. I want to take it in. And so that's what I've been doing. So you guys don't worry about me. I'm good. And that's why it's really good to have it like this, so you're not seeing my face. Because people said when we were on at Nino, and this back a while ago, they said, gosh, Sheila's looking mad. Is Sheila mad about what's going on? No, Sheila's not mad. Sheila's deep in thought. And so there's no sense in you seeing me be deep in thought. And this works better with our connection, that I not be on camera today. And I'm fine with that. So bless you guys.
Well, I just want to make one comment that to both of you. I think, cerebrally, the way you've explained this, and I think hearing all this stuff about Satanists and this and that, but you guys have laid it out so beautifully, and now it's on our show and people can listen to it for a long time, that this is a belief system. Like Juan, you said, it doesn't matter if it's true or not, it's what they believe. So it's what drives them. And I think with people understanding what this belief system is, it really gives a lot more insight into why. Because sometimes people get caught up like, well, why are they doing this? And how it kind of doesn't matter. That's what they believe, and that's what's going on, and it's our job. The other thing I wanted to say is, to Sheila's point, you said about, free will. And I think that if you consider the people in the chat, and of course myself and Stu and a lot of other podcasters, nobody kind of convinced us. We actively sought the truth, and we went to places that would help provide those answers. So to your guys' point, you can't convince someone. They maybe you plant a seed and they want to then know more. But that's why I think so many people in the chat are so frustrated, because you have people you love and you want them to kind of get it and understand it. And Unfortunately,
hold on. I want to say something right here. Let me just dive in for a second.
yeah.
Christ is walking with his apostles and the 12. And there's an entourage around them as they would come and go to different communities. And so there'd be a crowd, a surge around them. And, you didn't have megaphones and you didn't have, broadcasting systems and all that. And so the apostles would go to talk with the people, and they acted like a filter, those that got past them to get to Christ himself, with questions, with needs, etc. And so they were spreading the message even amongst the crowd and answering questions at a very personal level, kind of a conclave type of thing. And so at one point, when Christ had the apostles off to themselves, away from the crowds, and he knew what the murmurings were, he knew what the questions were that were being asked, he turns to the apostles and he says, "Who do men say that I am?" Because there's all this murmurings. He wants, he's taking in some input. You've been talking to the people in the crowds in this area. Who do they say that I am? And one of the apostles says, "Well, some say you're John the Baptist, who had been beheaded, the one who had anointed or baptized Christ before he began his ministry." Some said that you're Elijah, come back to, minister, etc. There was all sorts of different theories on who Christ was. Then Christ turns to Peter, and he says to Peter, he says, "Who do you say that I am?" And Peter says, "You're the Son of God." And Christ says, and he goes into a little bit of a spiel. God himself revealed a truth to Peter in his heart, in the midst of all the other chaos, confusion, everything else. God himself gave Peter an understanding. He heard all the same stories. He heard all the same conversations. But it was something that happened inside his heart. It wasn't something he read. It wasn't something that somebody else explained to him. He got some kind of a response from God himself in heaven, probably asked the same questions, but instead of asking other people, other disciples, he asked God himself, who is this man? Who is this person? And he got a direct personal answer from God himself. It's the same here. Within the audience, we can put out information, ideas, understand our enemies, history, everything else. But in the end, it's a personal thing. The scripture talks about one that would come to reconcile the nation and the individuals on this subject of sin, separation from God, that went all the way back to Adam. And they understood very clearly. That's why they had all these sacrifices. It was symbolic of a sacrifice that God himself would require to pay the penalty of sin, separation from God. And so they had all these ceremonies around that to reconcile a race, people, and individuals from their separation from God due to sin, in order to be able to come back in his presence, as Adam had enjoyed it prior to sin entering into the world. We individually have to reconcile ourselves with God Almighty in order to become able to come back into his presence. And by the way, you could be at a location where several people, dozens, hundreds of people die in the same incident. But when you enter the next world, it's very, very, very personal. It's very individual. It's not a crowd thing. Your situation before God, your judgment, your eternal circumstances are very precisely personal to you. And so, while we look at things out across the world, things that we want to need to do, be counted on the right side of history, show up to be counted as President Trump has asked for on May 17th, and as he asked previously for on January 6th. And yet, at the end of the day, it's a very personal thing before God. Which side were you on? What had you done? And your reconciliation with God Almighty, accepting forgiveness of sin through Christ. Christ said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes unto the Father except by me. I'm the portal. I'm the gateway. Well, can I go through this portal or that portal? Can I do it with these magical acts? Can I do it by aligning with these people? When you get to leaving this world and entering the next, it's totally personal. A near-death experience, when people come back, even if other people around them died in the same incident, they're all dealt with individually, and you will be also. So you have to decide and make a life change commitment. Please God, he put on human flesh like we put on a coat. Who was he? It's the Father. Christ says, I and the Father am one. He who has seen me has seen the Father. So there's no difference at all, one to the other. It's just the human manifestation of divinity. And so when Christ, God, way and reconciles, because no man was found that could reconcile this sin against God. He personally takes the stead, provides a path for forgiveness, and then for us to, again, have personal contact with him. When Christ said to Peter, no man, no flesh has revealed this to you, but God himself, it was personal in his heart. I can make the introduction, but it's up to each person in this audience to pray the prayer. Please, Father, I don't understand all this stuff. There's a lot going on here, but I want to be in your heaven forever. That's what David said. I want to be in your courts forever. Please help me. And accepting that God is the only way to get there through Christ and his sacrifice. When you accept Christ into your heart and accept the forgiveness of the Father through that act, that gesture, then you can be reconciled, and in this world and the next have the promise of eternal life in heaven, as opposed to under judgment and separation from God, hell itself, with the devil and his angels, this whole crowd that loves evil. And but it's a personal choice. It's excruciatingly personal. Your parents can't do it for you. Your priest can't do it for you. Your best friend can't do it for you. It's individual. You have to choose life, choose God, and then if it's real, your actions don't buy your way to heaven, but your actions do prove, as you walk out your life in this world, which side you're truly on. And if you do things that are in alignment with God's purposes by faith, you show yourself to be a child of God by the way you live, by the way you act, by the way you make personal choices. And from time to time sacrifices. Is that clicking for you guys? That makes sense?
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, this free will is a beautiful gift we've all been given, but no one else can make these choices for you but yourself. And it's what path you have to follow is all down to you. And you mentioned precipice there, Juan. Can you just talk to us about, what you believe this precipice, scare event, near-death experience moment may be coming up for the people?
Stewie, right before we go into that, I want to mention there's a Hebrew word that confirms everything Juan just said. And that word in Hebrew is ECHAD. And Bill Morford, who transcribed the Hebrew into the One New Man Bible into English, he gave me that. He was told to prepare it 2 days before he found out I was to call him to meet. And when we met on our 7th anniversary of our first meeting. Father has put all of this together so I could put this in the new book. Ishad means absolute unity. The Trinity is false. The splitting into three is false. And he gave me the 2-page summary on this. This is back in 23. And I was able to put it in the beginning of the new book. And Ishad took up over 80 pages of the 100 pages of the personal letter, because absolute unity is what they've driven us away from. And I also want to mention from the comments that I got the last time we were on together, the ones that came out on Rumble afterwards, is that I can't believe this woman can take everything and make it spiritual and make it biblical. I don't think that any of this could be true, blah, 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 blah. I don't think we should listen to this woman. You see the fight we're in? If you don't think we're in a spiritual war, if you don't think we're dealing with good versus evil, if you don't think that the Pilgrims knew what was going on because their children were being groomed, the fathers were being boiled in oil, the fathers were being burned at the stake, and the men were taking the guards and the royals were taking the women and the children for their own devices. If you don't think they were running away from that to get to this uninhabited land that the tribes were sent to, and it's not just America, First Peoples in Canada. I see all of your comments, guys, about all of the facts that now you got AK-47s in the hands of Chinese at your borders. Guys, this is why we haven't stood up. And so I'm looking at all the chat today to remind you of what was said to me last time. And I have prayed over the names of those handles of those people, because I don't know who those people are. And that simple prayer is, Father, I thank you for doing whatever it takes to speak to them so clearly, so deep into their heart and mind, that nothing that comes out of them is not your truth. Nothing that can come from them does not express your truth. Because, guys, it is a spiritual temple that we have to take down. And it is biblical. And that's the battle we are in. And it's a battle we've been in since the garden. And President Trump is willing for the whole world to stand and work on all of this. And now there's armchair quarterbacks trying to tell Trump what he should be focused upon. Out of people that we have trusted over time, people that we have thought were voices over time, but now they're trying to say how this all should be done. There's one general that just will not stop. There's 2 colonels that just will not stop. And now you guys are writing to me that, well, this is a whole different way that this should be going. This is not President Trump by himself. President Trump understands the war we are in. The 200 generals that brought him in 2015 understand the war that we are in. And my heart goes out to those of you who don't understand the war that we are in, because it is spiritual, it is biblical, and I have lived where you have lived. I had the corporation. I was going to be on ABC News. All these things, and I thought the world was pulling the rug out. Father just wanted me to go in, find out all of it for these days. It was a day I was getting the picture taken in my new suit with my hair done after the corporation was destroyed, to get a 5-year contract at ABC in San Diego. I would have been in the mainstream media. My corporation was medical legal. I would have been supporting the medical process in America. Guys, God took me out of all of it, out of corporate America, where I was a human resources instead of a personnel director, because as soon as I went to human resources, they started layoffs. We have watched this in our lifetimes go down to a level that it never should have gone to, because we became a silent majority. And I see how you guys are starting to say in the chat that we needed to be a voice in this. We all needed to do that, but they killed all the true speakers. And when they did it, they had a whole different plan going on. And so I really hope that the one message we can get across is, if you get tight with the Father, and I know you guys are laughing because I've been saying this 25 years on all the interviews that I can get on. If you don't get tight with the Father, you're not going to know the truth about the enemy. The only one that can tell you is him. And what he just said about Peter, that is true. And guys, that was before the Holy Spirit was revealed. But Father's plan is so tight that the same day, Savan 6, when he sent Moses the 10 on the tablet, when he did that, Savan 6 is the same date. And let me look at this again. The Savan 6 is the same date as when he sent the Holy Spirit. Nisan 14 is the same day our Christ was on the cross. 3 days later, Nisan 17, not from a Friday to a Sunday of Ishtar Easter that everybody celebrates and calls it resurrection. None of that is true. So all of that deceiving is what I was talking about a few moments ago. When you spend your time deceiving people with things you think are the truth and you don't know the truth. And when he just mentioned, that's why I wanted to tell you about Ishad. We've been lied to about the 3 split. Why? The Brahma is 3 men standing back to back. Then the Vishnu, then the Shiva, which is at the end of CERN, the WHO, the WEF, the UN. 6 legs, 6 arms. 3 in 1. It's a lie. What Juan just explained to you, I know is sounding foreign to you, but I want you to go ahead and look up that word, Ishad. It means absolute unity. They've spent all of their time dividing us so we wouldn't be able to unite. And at least a third, close to a half of the points in the 45 points to destroy a nation are to destroy the family. Why? When you get the family fighting each other, which is where they have us, the generations fighting each other, you can only trust the government, not the parents and the grandparents. What did the Pilgrims put on the faith monument? The parents teaching the children and the grandparents mentoring. Why? Because they raised up great children. Why do you suppose they came to America before 1620 to arrive? They knew about the 20 in every century. And they were still captured, their money stolen 3 times before they got here. And they went ahead and came in the winter. Why? To get here by 1620 and not have their people. Guys, we're learning now what they've known for generations, for centuries. And so every time it gets too rough and people back away. The Q team is not new. The Q process is not new. Somebody wrote in and said there was a Q chapter in the Bible that was removed. I don't know about that. Juan may know about that.
It's the missing gospel of Q, that is, I believe.
That's what they're saying. There's a gospel of Q. And I don't know. I don't know what that is. But we've talked about the 5D communication, and that is Hebrew. That Father has given us the confirmation of that. And again, that video is on my website on the interviews page. Scroll down to the bottom and it just says, this is a video everyone wants Sheila to send them. Here it is. Just click on the link and you'll see 4 minutes and 30 seconds. And it will explain the whole 5 levels of communication and why nobody else can get it, because you can't get the 4th and 5th in the dimensions if you don't know the Lord. He has to tell you how to put the letters together, and he has to tell you the definition. And the one example that we used the last times we were together is the 3 eclipses. The last one went through 6 towns of Nineveh. Everybody goes, 6, that means beast, that means human, that means tent peg in that little video. But after all of that, what God said is, Sheila, 6 also means Ruach HaKodesh. That's what I want my people to know. What is Ruach HaKodesh in Hebrew? It is the tight connection with the Lord over all. That's the only connection that's going to get you through a storm, because you won't know. Father, he has saved me from 3 auto accidents in the past month. 18-wheelers trying to take me out, guys. I could go on and on and on. I could spend hours with you and tell you all the miracles he's committed in my life in the past 3 months. He still wants me here. Only he knows what else he wants me to do. But we're trying to make it so that you understand the depth of this goes all the way back to the very beginning. Nobody has taken on what President Trump is taking on since the Garden of Eden to this degree to get it done. Jefferson tried. President Jefferson tried. He created the Marines, sent them to the shores of Tripoli. Look at the Marine hymn. It's in there. You have to take care of the problems where they are because they're bringing it here. So,
well,
anyway.
let me just chime right in there. By the way, Elijah, this great prophet. I mean, the stuff in his life is just stunning. What happened, but when the time for the challenge, the line in the sand, occurred with the priests of Baal and Moloch, which, by the way, Moloch is depicted as a bull, and the horrors that they would do, they would bring a child, give it to the priest, and the priest, with great ceremony and pomp, would place it in the hands of this brass statue, this huge brass statue, and red hot from being in this fire built under it, and then it would, with cables, be pulled back with the arms and dropped into the belly of the beast. And that was the sacrifice thing, with great pomp and circumstance and the wailing and screaming of the crowd and everything else. Elijah came against that right there on their holy mountain dedicated to evil. He didn't do it down in town in Jerusalem. He didn't do it at a separate site. He did it at their sacrifice location. He took the fight to their gates of hell. And then the presence of God, the demonstration, the taking of Elijah's sacrifice over the servants of Baal and the priests of Baal was done right there next to it. We're not waiting for them to come to us. We're not trying to get them to come onto our holy ground and do it. We're taking it right to the gates of hell. That's what President Trump has been doing by, I believe, divine direction. And he said so. He believes he's here as an act of God to have survived the nation there at Butler. And so with all that in mind, imagine being called to be present. How many of the people that were there were people who'd never bent their knee to Baal, who were there to support Elijah at this critical moment? And how many of them were the ones that had been conned and deceived, even to the point of sacrificing their own children, their future, by the way, because for people as they would get older in that society, their future was their children, to help care for them in old age. They were sacrificing their future to these Baal and Moloch occult evil monsters. And so there was a line in the sand, did it right there at the gates of hell. There's people that don't believe we're going to make it through this moment, but by divine hand, and that's what President Trump is saying, we need divine assistance, divine protection, divine guidance to get through these moments ahead, even calling for this national rededication 49 days before the 4th of July. And what's the 50th day? The day after the beginning of the Jubilee season, to take back and reown everything. What does Trump know that he alone fully knows about what has to happen next, what he's going to do, what they've set up? And before those next moments, he's giving us a call. We need to enter this next phase prayerfully, mindful that without God's blessing on our next actions, we would not make it through. That rededication. How many soldiers in the field waiting to go into battle at the crack of dawn after the barrage of missiles and bombs has softened up the enemy lines, but knowing that they're going to physically have to go in and take that area, that the fight's going to get very real, and you're waiting in those moments before you act. how many of those soldiers have prayed a prayer?